Okay, so far we've seen how to add camera movement in a couple different ways by just doing a simple push in with a couple keyframes or by visualizing it using the in-engine tools like the crane and the dolly. But what if we just want to keep the camera static and still give it a little bit of life, a little bit of handheld feel to it? Well, there's an effective and procedural way we can do that with the Camera Shake blueprint. It's also an easy way to kind of break up a camera move that feels too perfect and doesn't have enough of that organic feel. Let's go ahead and take a look. So this is in module 10. Let's go ahead and load that up. Maps, main, and module 10 on save. We will go ahead and load up our module 10 cinematic or sequence. And we're going to take a look at what we've done here. I'm going to hit G, make things go away. And let's take a look at what we have going on here. First and foremost, just want to point out how this camera shake works within the sequencer. So I'm going to go ahead and twirl down this crane and dolly, and we're just going to look at this close-up Ziva for now. You'll notice that we have a camera shake component here in the sequencer. The way we bring that up is by just hitting this button over here, or this one, the track button, and then we have a camera shake option. Here are some of the blueprints I've already created, and that's how you would add it in. But before we go into all that, let's take a look at what that looks like. So let's take a look at our close-up Ziva shot here, and let's hit play. And you'll see that we have a pretty subtle handheld feel to this camera move now, just to kind of break it up, give it a little bit of life. And even when it's static after the point of it hits the second keyframe, you still buy that as potentially a handheld shot. And you'll notice that I have 3 or 4 handheld blueprints here. And the reason for that is because it's actually, you're able to procedurally layer them and to break up some of that fake randomness that the algorithm is kind of making. We kind of layer them on top of each other to kind of give it different feels. So I'm going to show you how to do all that in just a second. So this is what we're looking at. Let's go ahead and pop out of here for now and reset our view. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Content Browser here, and we're going to go to the root folder. So hit Content, and we'll go into our Camera Shake folder. You'll see there's a few of them already created, but we're going to create our new one right now. So go ahead and right click on the content browser right here and click Blueprint Class. So you might have this twirled up like this. So go ahead and twirl that down, all classes, and we're going to search for Shake. And the blueprint that we're going to want to do is this Matinee Camera Shake. Let's go ahead and click that and select. And we'll call this Cam Shake. Actually, we'll just do our handheld subtle V2. All right, now we can double click that, and you'll see this window pops up, and it's a blueprint window. Don't worry, we're not going to do anything in here again, no nodes or anything like that. All we're going to do is going to be punching in some numbers over here on this side. Now, this is going to be a very trial and error experience. You're going to try different things. You're going to see what feels good, what doesn't. And in order to take a look, we're going to go over here, and actually let's start with our, let's go to our close-up tray shot here. Make sure we're in the sequencer as well, because tray doesn't have any handheld feel yet. And we're going to add this newly created one. I'm going to make some room over here so we can look at what we got going on. And if we see tray has a small little move here that we did earlier, very subtle, kind of a boom down close-up move here. And we're going to just add some life to that. So let's go ahead and track Camera Shake. We'll bring in our handheld subtle V2. And you'll see it comes in the form of this track right here. You can just extend that. Make sure it covers the extent of your shot. In this case, we're going from this keyframe to this keyframe, so that kind of covers it there for now. You can even extend it further if we want to take a look at it when it's not moving. All right, so right now we will have no shake because we have done nothing to our blueprint over here. And the great thing about this blueprint is you can start changing things and you'll see the effects right away. And I won't get into like how this all works as far as the math and all that. I'm just going to give you some numbers to start off with and to kind of feel out how to do this for yourself. So oscillation duration, this is just going to be how long the shake is going to last. We're going to do -1 because what that does, if you hover over here, it says less than 0 means indefinite for the entire duration of the shot. So we're going to go -1 here. We're going to hit 1 here and 1 here. And we're going to start taking a look at how these work. So we have our rotation oscillation, pitch, yaw, and roll. And then we have our location oscillation for the XYZ. And all of these, there's a lot of trial and error, a lot of like putting in numbers and seeing how it looks. And then there's a FOVS oscillation, which is field of view. And that's just going to be oscillating or changing the values of your field of view, or in this case, your lens. So it's kind of going to affect, it's almost going to act like a weird zoom lens going in and out. We're not going to use that. That's not what we're looking for. So I'm going to twirl that back up. So to start off, we're going to do some pretty radical values to just kind of make sure we see what they do. So in the pitch amplitude, I'm going to go, this is the amount that it's going to do. I'm going to go to maybe 5 for now, just to take a look. And then frequency 1. And then we're going to also make our waveform Perlin noise. Keep this random. Let's take a look at what that's doing. So you see that the pitch is tilting up and down in a random way, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller. And obviously we're starting off some radical numbers here just to take a look at what that does. So if you go down the line, each one of these do the same thing, but for the respective details. So in this case, yaw would be a pan left and right. So we can take a look really quick. And we're going to do 5 and 1. And again, Perlin noise. And now we're going to have both the tilting up and down and the panning left and right. And again, we're just taking a look right now. The roll, I don't use too much just because it's just, that's not really natural to a handheld look. But let's take a gander here. So I'm going to hit 5 and then 1 and then Perlin noise. And you'll see, yeah, that's, obviously super exaggerated, but there's not a ton of roll when somebody's handheld. So I don't like to use it too much. That's just kind of like your, it just doesn't feel natural. So I'm going to zero that out. Could leave it at Perlin noise actually. And we're going to twirl that down. Okay, so this is the basics of how the camera shake blueprint works. You're just trying little different numbers here until it starts to feel good. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just show you a quick way to get something that I feel like was feeling pretty good to me and go from there. So I like to start with something a little bit bigger for a bass, or like a subtle bass. So let's go with 0.5 here and 0.5 here, and same thing on the yaw, 0.5 here, 0.5 there. And let's take a look at that. Really subtle, but it's there. And that's what we're looking for. We're just looking for just a little bit of life, almost as if somebody's operating the camera. So even if we go past to the point where it's not moving, it's a pretty nice little bass, right? So what we can do now is we can start to layer these handheld blueprints. So I've already gone ahead and created a few different ones. And if I pull them up here, for example, I have the handheld micro. And what this is going to be some micro jitters. You can see that the numbers are really small here on the amplitude, so the amount, but the frequency is a little bit higher. And so it has a very, very subtle micro frequency. So let's go ahead and check that out. Let's add a new camera shake. And we're going to bring in the handheld micro. You see it gets added down here. Let's go ahead and drag that out like so. And just to kind of take a look at what that's doing by itself, let's go ahead and move this off to the side here for a second, and let's take a look. You can barely tell, right? You're like, well, I can't see anything. It's there, but it's super subtle. Let's enhance it a little bit. Let's go to 0.05 and 0.05. You'll see it a little bit better now. See that? There's like these micro jitters, as if, when somebody's hand holding a camera, there are these kind of uncontrollable jitters, right? And we want to add that in, but again, super, super subtle. So I kept it at the 0.02, which felt like it was there, but not here. It feels like, I don't know, it's intruding a little bit too in the shot. It's just a little distracting. So let's put that back at 0.2 and we can save that. compile it too. And so that's our micro. And now we bring back our handheld that we just created a little bit earlier. And let's add in another layer here. So track, camera shake. This time we're going to go to the Blueprint handheld mid. Same thing, add it, drag it over, and let's again drag these two over so we can take a look at just the mid. The mid is going to be pretty similar to the one we created. And let's actually bring that up really quick. Handheld mid, double click, and you see all three are coming up here. And we actually have it at 0.21 and 0.21. Nothing on the location oscillation. And I had this at duration 10,000. You can again go just to -1. That does the same thing. I'll save that. And so if we take a look, it's a subtle move. And again, like I think it's pretty good to look at this when it's not moving. A little feel there, a little something else. And the point isn't necessarily that you're creating something brand new with these layering of these handheld shakes. It's that because you're layering the different handheld shakes together, they're actually kind of breaking up the randomness that feels a little bit like it's tiling. Like you can kind of like perceive that there's a tiling randomness that doesn't feel so random. By layering the handheld shakes together, you're going to be able to break that up a little bit. So even if it's not super different as far as numbers go, it's adding another component, another randomness to this shake. And finally, we're going to add our handheld bass. And that's 0.5, 0.5. It's actually what we've done on our subtle when we did it from scratch. And I want to do one last thing on that one. So let's go ahead and add another camera shake, handheld bass, drag it out. And you'll see this was the one we created. We did the 0.5, 0.5, which is right here. But what we're going to do actually is we're going to swap that out. So this was just a good demo for you guys to see how to create it. I'm going to swap that out to, by the way, you can right click here, properties, shake class. You can use the drop down menu. This is a quick way to just change the different levels of handheld shakes. And we're going to go to the handheld subtle, the one that I created earlier, because it's a little bit different. And I'll show you why. Let's bring that up really quick. Handheld subtle. And that's this one right here. And we have it at -1. In this case, this doesn't really matter, but I like to keep it at 1, 1. And then we do have different numbers here. We have 0 on the pitch, 0.25, 0.25. But what's different about this one is I've actually added some location oscillation. So it'll move on the x-axis or the y-axis just a little bit. Again, pretty subtle. So let's take a look at how all 4 of these kind of layer together. And I feel like that feels pretty good, pretty natural. And again, you don't have to use all 4 of these. But yeah, I'm really happy with how these 4 come together. So it's up to you to use all of these in trial and error and feel out what you like until it feels pretty natural to you. Of course, you can go more exaggerated or less exaggerated. You can have only one of these if you want. Say, for example, I just wanted this handheld subtle camera here. I can delete all 3 of those other ones and just live with this one shake. But as you see, it just doesn't feel random enough. It works, it breaks up the shot, but it doesn't feel random enough. So I wanted to show you how to layer all 4 of those. So it's a little bit of work, but you start to get a really natural feeling for the shot and something that breaks up an otherwise pretty perfect move, right? So that's the basics of working with the handheld shake that's built into Unreal Engine. We've looked at 3 ways now in how we can add movement to our shots with just keyframing and blueprints, also using the in-engine tools like the crane and the dolly. And we saw how that can increase the cinematic production value of any given shot. Movement is so important. Make sure you use it in your projects.